Hello, I'm Tim Lewis, and thank you for watching this video. Please hit the like button, and if you haven't done so, please subscribe for more content. If you know someone who might like this video, recommend it to them and encourage them to subscribe as well. Thank you and enjoy the video. Today's video will cover the MTH Railking Galloping Goose. Let's talk about the real Galloping Geeses. The Galloping Goose class was a popular name given to a 7-motored railcar series built in 1930s by the Rio Grande Southern Railroad. They operated in revenue service until the end of their service on the line in the early 1950s, and these were derived from full-size automobiles. The struggling RGS developed the first of the geese as a way to stave off bankruptcy and to keep its contracts to run mail into towns of the Colorado Rocky Mountains. There was not enough passenger or cargo income to justify continuing the expensive steam train service at the current levels. But it was believed that a downsized railway would return to profitability. So steam trains would continue to transport heavy cargo and peak passenger loads, but the motors would handle lighter loads. Motors were not only less expensive to operate, but were also significantly lighter. All of the geese were built in the railroad's shops in Ridgway, Colorado. The first was built in 1931 from the body of a Buick Master 6 four-door sedan. It was conventional in its construction than later geese, though it had 2 axle trucks in place of the front axle part. Part of the rear of the car was replaced by a stake bed for carrying freight and mail. This was later enclosed and partially fitted with seating. It was used for 2 years to carry passenger, U.S. mail, light freight before it was scrapped. A second Goose was built in the same year from another Buick, but later versions used pierced aero bodies except for number 6, which was constructed partially out of parts from the scrapped number 1. Number 2 and number 6 were constructed with 2 trucks, with the rear truck powered on both axles. Number 2 had an enclosed freight compartment like a very short boxcar, while number 6 had an open bed similar to number 1 but larger. It was used for only work train service. The other 4 had 3 trucks and were articulated in the same manner as a tractor-trailer truck. In these, the second truck was powered and the freight compartment was essentially a conventional boxcar. Initially, the geese were painted in black and dark green. In 1935, they were all painted into a silver scheme, which they retain to this day, though the style of lettering and heralds changed over the years. In 1945, number 3, number 4, and number 5 were rebuilt with Wayne bus bodies, at least the front half, replacing the old Pierce aero bodies. This provided more passenger seating and comfort. A year later, they also received new war surplus GMC engines. In 1950, when the railroad finally lost its mail contract in favor of highway mail carriers, 3, 4, 5, and 7 were converted for tourist operations, and the Galloping Goose name was officially recognized by the railroad. Large windows were cut in the sides of the freight compartments and seating was added. A figure of a running goose and the words Galloping Goose were added to the car body and doors. This service lasted only 2 years, and the last work of these geese were on their home line was taken to the rails. It is unclear exactly where the name of Galloping Goose came from. It mostly commonly suggested that it is referred to the way the car body and freight compartment tended to rock back and forth on the line's sometimes precarious track. It is also suggested that this name arose because the geese were equipped with air horns rather than whistles of the steam locomotives. The 6 remaining gooses are still around, and only one not in California is Goose 3 at Knott's Berry Farm. The 6 remaining gooses are still around, and the only one not in Colorado is Goose 3 at Knott's Berry Farm in Buena Park, California. It is used regularly during off-season periods when the park attendance is low. The 7, which this goose is modeled after, is at the Colorado State Railway Museum with 2 and 6. If you look at this goose and the prototypical 7, they look similar, but the big difference is the fenders on the front. The fender design looks like the number 4, which is located in Telluride, Colorado, and the 5 is owned by the city of Dolores, and it operates occasionally from time to time on the Converse and Toltec in Durango and Silverton, and occasionally will make stops at the Colorado Railroad Museum. They have an event that gather all the geeses, and it is called Goose Fest. And a replica of number 1 was created to make it look like all 7 gooses were still around. The last few fests had all but number 3 present because number 3 is in California. Let's talk about the MTH model. MTH has done several liveries despite RGS being the only railroad who owned them. However, the paint jobs look so superb that maybe it could have been. As I mentioned, this goose does appear looking like number 4, and probably MTH decided to keep this design and not change it because of the costs to make new tooling. However, I'm okay with this because I couldn't really tell that this was a 4 cab until an expert on narrow gauge railroading told me this was a 4 cab. MTH has made this locomotive several times, starting with PS1 and Loco Sounds to now PS2 and PS3 DCS operations. Now, the Protosound locomotives have station stop sounds, meaning that the engine can be programmed via transformer, initiating the stops. You will have a variety of sounds and all automated. However, I have never programmed mine to do so, despite PS2 and PS3 locomotives being equipped with station sounds. When you run it off DCS, you can use the soft keys and it will name some of the stops. Since this is a RGS model, it has all the stops along the old RGS route. I like to keep my Goose running, so I don't plan to program mine. There is only one Galloping Goose that I know of with PFA announcements, and that was the M&M's Galloping Goose. Many other products such as subways, trolleys, and doodlebugs might have station stop sounds equipped. I have seen several people modify their Gooses and make them into a 2-truck body. However, I don't have access to those photos. I had a member of a club who had one, but he passed away and I can't get photos of that locomotive to show. As mentioned before, this model can have different operating systems such as conventional control, DCS, and DCC. This locomotive was produced in 2013 and appeared in the Volume 1 catalog, and then it was shipped November of 2013. This locomotive has some nice features, so let's take a closer look. We're going to start off at the front of the locomotive. Here we have a slotted plow for the front. So, as you guys can tell, it's slotted. You got 2 LED lights up here, and you have the radiator right here, and a fill cap that was molded in. Continuing along the sides, we have the front truck right here. We have number 7, and we have the Galloping Goose logo right here, including some windows with an interior, and the RGS on the side. If you guys recall, in the previous video blog episode, I showed you the inside of the cab, showing you guys how I added figures. And when you get the locomotive, as mentioned in that video, you only get the engineer as the figure, so I added people to make it look more filled. There is also an LED light in there, as you guys can see by the photos. Continuing on top, we got RGS up here again. We have some handrails around here. We got 2 little tanks up here, and we got another tank with a little thing on top, which will probably have a gauge on it. Moving to the back of the body for the boxcar portion, we have a little air vent right here, and we have Rio Grande Southern, including another logo down here. As I mentioned before in the previous vlog episode, I took this apart, had 4 screws, and you really don't have to take the body and separate it from the box cab. And what I mean by that is, later in the video I will show you guys the little screw on the boxcar portion which can be separated if you have to take the box apart. There is a little plug right here that will give you the lights for the front and for the cab. Continuing on with the boxcar portion, we have some nice rivet detail that you can see better now. And along here we have a molded in lock and a door that does not open with some steps down here. Continuing along, we have the trucks for the boxcar portion. On top we have a little representation of what a stack could look like, which had a stove inside the boxcar portion. Now before we continue along the sides and the back, we'll start off with the back first. And obviously on the whole boxcar you got a black outline completely around the car, so it is very nice. You got a big number 7 here, another door with some more molded in detail, and some steps. Here's the other side of the engine, and you guys can tell there's only one major difference between this side and this side, and that is the molded in detail with the steps on top of the boxcar. Here's the undersection of the boxcar portion, and as you guys can tell, this is where all the electronics minus the lights are for the locomotive. There's a speaker right in here. You got the volume control switch, and this particular model does not have a DCC or DCS switch. Now the rear truck has all free moving wheels, so I can just spin the wheels and they'll move freely. You also got a pickup roller here, and this is the power truck, so the only powered axle is this front axle right here. It includes 2 pickup rollers, and this is another free rolling axle. Here is another look at the front of the undercarriage of the cab, and here is the screw. It's just a standard screw for separating the body and the cab. Also, you got the underside of the cab, including the front trucks, and these 4 screws are the screws to take the cab portion off the body. So let's move on to my favorite feature, and that is the durability of this engine. There's no smoke unit and it has no couplers, so pretty much I can put it on the track and let it go and not have to worry about anything getting broken, causing me to take it to get repaired. My least favorite feature is the station stop sounds, but I want to thank MTH that made the PFA sound set and the ability to change sound files pretty simple. Alrighty guys, this wraps up this review and run. Now these models are very hard to find, so you're going to have to look around, and mostly they pop up on eBay every so often. Now the good price for one of these, brand new for me, I got this from Train World a couple years ago. It was a free shipping deal, so I got the engine for $219. So that was a pretty good deal. And I believe that's a good price, around $220 and a little bit lower. Now you can probably buy the PS1 models for under $100, and they're just as good. They have similar sounds to the PS3 models, and you'll be able to find what you'll want in any of those models. Anyways, that wraps up this review. Thank you guys for watching. Once again, thank you for watching this video. If you like what you saw, please hit the like button. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe for more content. If you know someone who might like this video, recommend it to them and encourage them to subscribe. If you would like to see more photos and videos, I have an Instagram account. The username is sdiv_tim, and the link is in the bio. If you're an O-Gauge modeler looking for more exposure, American O-Gauge is a feature page on Instagram where O-Gauge modelers around the country have their trains on display. This also includes their layouts and tips. With over 1,000 followers and over 75 different contributors, We get a new contributor daily, and we hope you can contribute to our page.